Hey guys, welcome to my channel where we make people pay for what they did. This is my favorite story of all time, and it's gonna be an epic one. So let's jump right into it. My HOA fined me for rainwater on my sidewalk, so I made them pay for it. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, in this story has got to be the most ridiculous ones I have ever seen. They are just up there with some of the ones that I saw when I lived in Florida. And if you live in Florida, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They will fine you for anything. It all started when our neighbor had a tree that extended over our property line and dropped leaves onto our sidewalk. We talked to the neighbor about it, and he said he would take care of it. But in the meantime, the leaves started to pile up and eventually turned into a giant leaf pile. Our kids would always go and play in the leaf pile. It was big enough for them to have fun in. And then one day I noticed that the HOA had come by and put up a sign saying that we had 48 hours to clean it up or we would get a hefty fine. Now, it should be noted that there were no leaves on the neighbor's side of the property line. All the leaves had fallen onto our property, and I called the HOA president to ask him about it. And he told me that even though the leaves came from our neighbor's tree and were on our property, because they crossed the property line, they became the HOA's property and we had to clear them off. I asked him if he was serious, and he told me yes. So I took pictures of the leaves and sent them to him, asking him to send someone to pick them up. He told me that wasn't how it worked, and that I was responsible for cleaning them up. He told me that the HOA had power over everything that happened in the neighborhood, and that I had to do as I was told. He was being really rude and telling me that I didn't understand the rules, so I decided to just let it go and see what happened. After about a week, I got a letter in the mail that told me I had violated a rule, and I was being fined $75 because I had UNT cleaned up the leaves. It was crazy. And at first I thought maybe I should just pay the fine and be done with it. But then I realized that these people were nuts and they would probably keep fining me for things like this forever. So I wanted to teach them a lesson. I wrote back to the HOA and asked them to send me an itemized list of all the costs associated with cleaning up the leaves. I wanted to see how much it would cost for someone to come and pick up the leaves so I could pay them back. I got a call from the HOA president asking me what I was doing, and I told him I wanted to pay for the cleanup. He told me I couldn't do that and that I had to pay the fine instead. I told him that I wanted to pay for the cleanup, and he told me no. He told me that the HOA would handle it and that I didn't need to worry about it. Then he hung up on me. A few days later, I got a bill from the HOA for $195. It included the original $75 fine, plus $120 for 2 hours of labor to clean up the leaves. I paid the $75 fine, but I told them I was unpaying the $120 because I never agreed to pay for their labor. They sent me another letter saying that I had to pay the full amount, and that I would be fined an additional $25 per day until I paid it. I went outside and took some more pictures of the leaves and sent them to the HOA president. I also sent him a copy of the check I had written for the $75 fine. I told him that I wanted to pay for the cleanup, but they kept refusing my offer. The HOA president called me again and asked me why I was sending him pictures of the leaves again. I told him that I wanted to pay for the cleanup, but they wouldn't let me. He told me that I didn't understand the rules and that I had to pay the fine. I told him I understood the rules perfectly and that I was following them by offering to pay for the cleanup. But he wouldn't listen and he just kept telling me that I had to pay the fine. I waited a few days and then I got a letter saying that I owed $320. Which included the original $75 fine plus the $25 per day late fee. By now, the leaves had been gone for almost 2 weeks, so I knew that whoever had picked them up wasn't coming back anytime soon. I didn't want to wait any longer, so primera paid the $75 fine, and wrote a note saying that I was unpaying the $245 for their labor. Then I waited a few days and got another letter saying that I owed $400. $75 for the fine and $325 for the labor. I paid the $75 and wrote another note saying I wasn't paying for the labor. A few days later, I got another letter saying I owed $475. I paid the $75 and wrote another note saying I wasn't paying for the labor. At this point, I had paid $300 in fines, and I was getting tired of it. I decided to just pay the $75 fine and let it go. But then I got a letter saying I owed $550, which included the original $75 fine plus a $475 late fee for not paying the other fines. I had enough, and I decided to fight back. I called the HOA president and asked him why I was being fined so much money. He told me that I had to pay the fines or I would be taken to court. I told him that I was willing to go to court, and he told me that I would lose. He said that I had no choice but to pay the fines. I went online and found out that the HOA was incorporated as a nonprofit. This meant that they couldn't sue me for money damages. So I told the HOA president that I was going to pay the fines, and he told me that I would be sorry. I just laughed and hung up on him. A few days later, I got a letter saying that I owed $625, which included the original $75 fine plus a $550 late fee. I ignored the letter and didn't pay it. Then I waited for the inevitable lawsuit. The HOA filed suit against me for $625. I was furious. I told my lawyer to file an answer and counterclaim for $10,000. The HOA didn't like this, so they tried to settle out of court. They offered to drop the lawsuit and I would pay $400. I told them no and went to court. The judge heard both sides of the story and ruled that I had to pay $75 for the fine. He also said that I could keep the $400 that I had already paid. I was happy with this outcome, but the HOA wasn't. They appealed the ruling and took me to a higher court. The appellate court reviewed the case and ruled that the trial court had made the correct decision. They also said that I didn't have to pay the HOA as attorney fees. The HOA wasn't happy with this outcome, but they knew they had lost. They had to pay me back $400. Plus, they had to pay all of their own attorney fees. They were so angry, but there was nothing they could do about it. I won my case and I was able to move on with my life. Now, if you guys like this story, then you're gonna love the next one. It's one of my favorites. It's actually called Lady Forgets. She's talking to the manager until she needs his help. It's a good one. You're gonna love it. So click on that link, check it out, and I'll see you over there. Thanks. Bye.